Alright guys, this video today is very special. I am interviewing someone that I've been wanting to interview for a very long time now. I've been on their case for months, and I'm really excited to be doing this now. I want to preface this by saying the audio in this video is a little bit crappy. Everything that you'll hear from the person I'm interviewing is completely fine. It's just when you hear me asking the actual questions, it's a little bit off, and that's completely my fault. The audio recording wasn't as good as it should have been. I realized that after we finished. Also, there are times in the video where it seems like it's glitching a little bit. That is just because of the internet connection. You know, I was holding a Google Hangout from Australia to Canada. It was a little bit strenuous on the internet, so there are a couple of little just bits and parts through the video where it'll glitch a little bit. You don't miss any important information. It might get a little bit annoying though, so just keep in mind that that's going to be present. It's nothing bad, so you know, you'll get through it. And then finally, I want to apologize for my slight awkwardness, because I was actually pretty nervous. Like, leading up to this interview I was fine, I was really excited, and when we started I got nervous because it was, I don't know why. But anyway, in this video today I'm going to be interviewing the box office artist, so check it out right now.
Does this lighting make me look cold? I have a top lighting, and I got like this bag, and I got this, but my cheeks, but it slims down. Never mind.
Here I am with the box office artist. So firstly, I want to thank you for doing this. I've been annoying you for months.
No, it's all right, PJ. Like, we've been talking for quite a while, and it's my fault. I've been delaying this for. I promised you we'd be doing this for a long time, but I'm very happy I'm finally here to talk with you today.
I've got a few questions here, but before we get into that, for like the one person watching who doesn't know who you are, can we get like a little brief history just to who you are, what you do?
Sure. Yeah, I'm an artist. Hooray! And I'm an older guy. I've been at this for quite a while. I like saying almost 20 years because it's a nice round off number. I'd say I've been working professionally for about, 2017? So about 17 years I've been working professionally. Started off after college. Started off working in comic books. I worked in comic books for about 6 years. Pretty much all the major comic book companies. I worked for Marvel, DC, Image Comics. Mostly known for my run on Dreamwave's Transformers and IDW's Transformers. From there, around 2006, 2007, that's when I transitioned into film. And I was a visual effects artist for the last 10 years, pretty much as a concept artist, a 3D modeler, and a matte painter. And I've worked on a ton of different movies, from Stargate to Fear 7, Fantastic Four, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Watchmen, to a whole array of different projects. So my art career has, I've tasted a lot of things. I tasted a lot of different avenues when it comes to actually turning my artwork into something that I could live on, right? So, yeah, I'm old.
What would you say, because I get this question a lot, and I think the term artist, I think people get a little bit intimidated by it when they try to say to them, like, call someone an artist themselves or whatever. What do you think defines an artist?
Well, let's even break that down a tiny bit more into what is art in itself. And for me, if you ask me, because that's a broad question, right? It's like one of those, so what is type question. But when you break down art, for me personally, and I'm sure everyone has their own version of this, but I say it really breaks down to art is expression, and it's someone expressing themselves. To me, that's what art is. So whether they express themselves through a song, or through acting, or throwing some mud against the wall, you know, an expression, to me, that is a form of art, and a count of expression, right? The way that you put things together. So whether that be like throwing some scribbles on a piece of paper, to you, if that means something, to me, that is already art. That already turns you into an artist. An artist is someone who found a way to express themselves. Okay, so to me, that's what it is. It's very basic, but at the same time, to me, that's pretty much what it is. So, and again, that could be anything, whether that be through painting, whether that be through sculpture. It's someone who's showing their inner self and exposes it to the world That's what art is, personally to me, and that's what an artist is. So whatever avenue somebody would like to take to show that particular expression, you're already an artist at that point. So, so yeah,
I think, yeah,
it's
I
very
agree
broad
with
to
that.
me personally.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's.
yeah.
I think people are very like intimidated because they think that there's some level of like skill that they need to have, or something like that. That there's like a minimum standard or whatever. But yeah, I
Right,
agree with you.
right, absolutely. Because um, I think the differentiation is, I think that when people are saying you're not an artist, when they're thinking that way, it's like you're not an artist unless somebody's willing to pay you for the
Yeah.
art, right? And you don't have that title until you get
Mhm.
someone that wants to pay for your art, and that's not true at all. I think everyone can be an artist as long as they know how to explore in whatever medium they would like to, right? So, but that's the big difference, I
Mhm.
think. Yeah.
So, what was the one thing that made you decide that you wanted to do art as a career?
Mainly when I figured out it was something that I love to do.
Hmm.
Because and I mentioned this before, like I've always been drawing forever, as long as I can remember. I always say, if someone said put an age on it, I'd say two, but really I have no idea, because as long as I can remember, I've always been drawing. Though it was never really a career choice for me, because growing up, especially with my Asian parents, like to them it's a foreign thing, where someone making money off drawings, right, type thing. So parents usually, especially back then, it's more doctor, lawyer,
Hmm.
fireman, policeman. They get that. Okay, go somewhere, you work, and then you go home and get the day. But and so I was kind of brought up that way,
Yeah.
thinking, okay, art, this is pretty much just a hobby, something I like doing on the side. I didn't get into comic books until I was in high school. Even then, even though I like drawing comics on the side, I never really considered it a full career.
Hmm.
And that wasn't until my last year of high school. That's where I had my eureka moment. When I realized, when I had all these, we called them OACs back then. Back then, in Canada, back some high school instead of four. That last year of high school was the equivalent of the first year of college or university.
Hmm.
So we would have university style courses in the last year. So I had six classes, and I looked at them. Now I'm not sure if it was out of laziness. It might have been, but I looked at this. I got six of these classes, and I'm like to myself, you know what? I don't want to do these things. I don't want to be a doctor. I kind of want to draw for my career, and that's when I actually made that hard to try to get into more of an art career.
Hmm.
So it wasn't really to my last year of high school that I decided, you know what, I want to change this around. I want to do what I love for a career instead. And that's when I decided to go to art school as opposed to medicine, in that case. So that's when the ball started rolling. That's when I really realized, okay, I'm going to try to make it go at making art my career at that point. So not too far from your age. I was like uh, when I decided. So yeah.
So back then, when you look back at that time now, what is the one thing you wish you knew before getting into career in art, or specifically into comics, I guess?
That was a huge mistake. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. No, one thing. Uh, and let me tell you, like it's throughout, and I wouldn't say even back then, but my entire comic book career, because full time in comics, I was from 2000 to 2006. I didn't, especially being young at that time. My work ethic was not where it should have been,
Hmm.
and well, actually, it's a two-part question to that. I would say one thing that I really wish I had more of was the actual work ethic itself to get these comic books done. Because especially, I was actually in a very good situation when I left comics. When I went, it was called Dreamwave back then. They held the Transformers license back then, and I didn't realize how good that situation was, where the work was actually pretty regular,
Yeah.
especially for comics. Like comics is very volatile. It's very, I'm working on one project, but I'm looking for the next project, and that's how it is always in a comic book career. But I didn't realize how hard I needed to work to kind of maintain, to even get better, to evolve my style, and
Hmm.
to something that would be worth getting paid for. But being young, and especially in that particular studio, I was I'd say I was like 21 at the time, and then everybody else, like there was nobody older than like 25.
Yeah.
Even Pat at that time, he was like 25, 26, right? So we were all young guys. We were all, I wouldn't say lazy, but we were lazy. But or we like procrastinating, you know. This was literally my schedule. I would go to at 10 p.m. at nighttime. The reason I went at 10 p.m. First of all, nobody went to the studio during the day. Nobody did it. We all slept during the day. And I went at 10 p.m. mainly because the traffic. I was trying to avoid traffic going to the studio. So I get to work at 10 p.m. Get there, mess around for an hour. So I'd actually start drawing from 11 o'clock to roughly maybe around 2 o'clock in the morning. And then we'd play Counter-Strike till about 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we go home. And I'd fall asleep. Like, I'm so tired. Let me drive an hour home.
Okay.
there you go. Yeah, we had this room set up where there was like 14 computers in the room, and then we'd go there and we just play all night. That's all we would do. So there was a reason why we were always late on our books, and that was the main reason why. But I had no, there was no repercussion. There was no, if we were late, we get a stern talking to. But for the most part, we were all the same age, right? We were all friends at the same time. So it was not the best environment for working hard at that particular time. But I think that would be the main thing. I wasn't consistent, and the actual grind of comics, it took me a while to get used to and adjusted to. Working in comics is, for those of you who never worked in comics before, it is a grind. Number one, you never get to 100% what you want to do per page that you want to do. And I'd say nowadays, even if you are working hard on a comic, you're still only going to be doing like 70% of what you actually want to do with every single page. You're always on a deadline. You got to get everything done. It seems like in a month, if you're working on a comic book, a month seems like the first week or 2 weeks, you only get done like 5 pages. Because you're taking your time, making sure everything's detailed, and then you find yourself at the end you're doing 3 pages a day because you're like, oh my gosh, the gotta get it done, and then you're staying up 3 days in a row, and then you throw up at the end, and you're like, let's do it again. That's the life of a comic book artist.
You have to really love it if you want to get into it, right?
Exactly. It's not a job you would take if you want to get paid.
Yeah.
Or don't go into comics for the money. I go into comics for the money, says no one ever. Right? You don't get into comics for money. You get into it because you love drawing comics. You love superheroes. You gotta love storytelling. Yeah. So there's someone who likes to draw pinups between someone who actually likes to do comics. There's 2 completely different things. If you just like doing illustrations, you should get more into illustration work. That's what I would say to you, instead of actual comics. Yeah. Because the actual storytelling, that's an art in itself. You got to love telling a story as well. So it's more than just drawing pretty pictures. You got to love telling a story because it's tough. It is tough, especially when you find yourself, like, even if you're drawing, just say you love drawing Wolverine. And Wolverine for the 200th time, it gets a little tedious when you get to the point where you're like, man, I've drawn this character the same way 50 times already. Or trying to find an original pose after you draw them for the 1,000th time. Gets tedious. You got to love the actual art of storytelling if you want to get into comic books. So that's one of the things I wish I kind of understood back then. Like, you have an idea going in, but you don't really know until you're actually down in the trenches. You also don't know that finding a job is one thing. Keeping the job is another thing. Like, that consistency of getting your work to the highest level, that's also very important. And I didn't also realize how much the outside things really plays a part, like going to conventions and building a fan base and selling your artwork and all of that. All of that is a part of the whole being a comic book artist bubble in itself. Don't realize it's more than just comic books. Comic book artists are businessmen at the same time. And that's really 50% of what you do as a comic book artist. You're a businessman, whether that be selling your art, going to the conventions, whether that be trying to find your clients that you could do all this work for. It's not just drawing. And then that's freelance art in general. You are a business person at the same time. And unfortunately for a lot of artists, like it's, a lot of artists don't know other people. Sometimes we just like to draw, but part of the job is that sort of communication with with other people. So especially if you want to be like a freelance artist or you want to be a comic book artist, that's where that line is drawn. So that's another thing I wish I knew, the amount of time that needed to go into the actual business side of comics, because at the end of the day, we all need to eat, right? At the end of the day, you need to put some food on the table. You need a roof over your head. All of that comes into play. Stuff I wish I knew back then when I was younger.
I don't know if it was an interview you did or if it was with someone else, but I remember someone saying, like, in the industry, you spend probably more time looking for a job than you do actually drawing. Because
no, that's very true. Absolutely. That my when I was in college, my first go around in college, that's what my art teacher told us too. It's like half your week is looking for work and the other half is actually executing the work. Now you can't actually do this in comics, but the way he would work is like the Monday, the Wednesday, and the Friday, that's when he's actually working on art. But the Tuesday and the Wednesday, that's the time he sets aside for meetings with clients, mailing clients, sending. Back then we had something called tear sheets where it was like one page of artwork and he would send that out. Now this is for freelance art, not for comic books, but those 2 days he would set aside for actual just communication and actually keeping and accounting and all that stuff. That's a full-time job in itself, really. So, for a comic book artist, it's like whenever you get around to it type thing. But it's more like, you're always looking for work at the same time. And there's always little things you need to do at the same time. Sometimes it's better to marry an accountant if you can. go marry, comic artist, go marry an accountant.
Text my girlfriend. I'm just going to accounting.
Get to the accounting. Now, my wife, she actually completely opposite in terms of what she likes, right? So she's not into comics at all. She's not into anything geek related at all, but she is an excellent business person at the same time. She's the type of person you walk into the furniture store and she'll get it for half off. When I'm the type of guy, I go to the furniture store. How much? Okay. But she's the bargainer, so she knows how to deal. So I get her to handle most of the financial aspects of my personal business. I think Jazz is the same, right? His wife handles all the actual finances of the thing. So sometimes I would even suggest to artists, like, I'm not saying go marry like a business partner, but or at least find a partner that can help you find business. I know a lot of painters that actually have, and that's what they find the particular projects to work on, and they just focus on the art, and then they pay them. Sometimes they have to pay them a lot. Sometimes they even have to pay them half of what they do. But at the same time, their total focus is on the actual art. So art's one of those things to make an actual living in art. There's both sides. Yeah. There's two sides to the coin. We wish it was just the drawing part, but there's so much more behind it if you want to make it your actual living. Right?
So this is a two-part question.
Sure.
This is actually really related to what you were just talking about. But during your time working in comics, what was the best piece of advice you received, and do you think you listened to it at the time?
Oh, best piece of advice at the particular time. Let's see here. Advice. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it best because I'm trying to figure out the best, right? Because you receive all sorts of advice, especially from editors. And it's more of like, do you want to listen to them, right? Yeah. For example, like one thing I started to do back then was I wanted to prove I could do a page a day, because there was a little bit of time where I wasn't working. So I was in talk with a lot of editors. So a lot of editors knew my work. And two guys was in contact a lot with one was CB Sabuski, who a lot of people know. He's the talent manager of Marvel. Even today, he's still the talent manager. And a Marvel editor, his name was Mike Martz. Right now, he's the editor-in-chief at Aftershock Comics right now. But a fantastic guy. He always replied to all of my emails. Great guy. So I would put up pages on my blog, right? So sometimes I tell people put up a page a day. That's what I was trying to do back then. So I would. Mike Martz, he sent me an X-Men script to work on. And so I did that. I worked on a page a day, and he would actually give me notes. And the biggest thing he kept telling me was, and CB would tell me the same thing, you're putting too much into the pages. You're putting too much. Surprise, surprise. Right? You're putting too much detail into these pages. And it wasn't because the details didn't look good. It was more because you couldn't read it. You couldn't read it. You couldn't differentiate between the characters and the backgrounds to the point where the details, as good as it looked, it was actually more of a distraction to actually what was going on.
More of a pin-up style, right? Instead of a like storytelling art, that would be better for pin-up style, I guess.
But even then, when it comes to pinups, like it's like, what is your main focal point to the pinup itself, right? So you could add all this detail, like, and you've seen all my drawings, all these details, but I try to do it in a way where things stand out more than others, type of thing, right? So because if everything was one note, so there's different ways to do that too, like whether that be with line weight, whether that be like all your backgrounds are like you don't put any shading in the background. That's something that CB actually told me to do. Was with my backgrounds. He said, look at guys like Brian Hitch, where like even though they're very detailed, the backgrounds itself, he does it in a way that the backgrounds differentiate themselves from what the actual focal point of the actual panel should be. But that was the main thing, because as you guys know, like I love a lot of detail in all my work, and that showed in my comic work. However, to the point where things were started to merge with, you couldn't tell what was what to that point without colors anyway, right? Hopefully sometimes the colors would help kind of separate it. It came to the point where sometimes colorists would have to actually blur the background a little bit just so you could kind of separate the actual main characters from the backgrounds. And that's when, you would think the more effort you put into a particular page that it would, they would appreciate that, and they do, but not to the point where the job is being sacrificed. And that's what was happening. My actual job was being sacrificed. My job of telling a story was being sacrificed because I was trying to add too much into the story. And I'll admit that was hard for me to take, type thing, because I wanted to add all this detail. I wanted to. It was one of those things where that made me happy, and adding to those things, and because I didn't listen. Exactly. But because I didn't listen, that hindered me from getting other work at the same time, right? Or it caught a lot slower than I would have been. You know what I mean? Right? So that's one of the things. What was the second part of the question? I forgot.
Did you take the advice?
Did I take the advice? No. I didn't take that advice. Well, I tried. I tried to take that advice, but it slowly crept back in after the time. Now, when I actually left comics in 2006, I was starting to get regular time, so it's more of a consistency type thing, and I was starting to get it at that time. So eventually I did, though I was a little hard-headed, as they say. It took me a while to, because I was like, nah, my way's better. My way's better, but it wasn't that much better. Because sometimes we get into this rut of, we think our way, it's the best way, even though other people are telling us contrary, or we just don't believe that other person.
I think that comes with
lesson this up, you're working
well,
better.
like,
I think so, right? I think
a bit of an ego, like I think that just comes with
right. Exactly. That's that little pride factor you have because you like it, right? You think to yourself, "Oh, I think this looks great," when you don't realize the mass appeal of it isn't. You're different than everyone else. Everyone else has their own opinion, and for the most part, sometimes the majority would have a different opinion than you when it comes to a certain part of art. That's the thing when you're working in a commercial business, or in that situation where we are subject to what people like at the same time. So, like I'll give you an example here. Like, for example, the way I draw Transformers, right? And a lot of people like the way I draw Transformers. And for the most part, a lot of people are telling me if I lessen the blacks and make it more cartoony, number one, I would probably get more work because I'd be faster. And number two, it would have mass appeal. And I'll actually guarantee both of those are true. But it's one of those things where I kind of like drawing this way. And because I'm not out to get money drawing comics anymore, that's why I still draw this way. But it was more like if I had to go back into comics, I might have to kind of simplify that style just to, even just for the fact of working faster than I would be if I just kept everything I wanted in it. So that's the checks and balances that you have to when it comes to that sort of thing. So I think that would be the biggest advice I would say. Yeah.
When you just
Just
said that about the Transformers books, like
yeah.
personally, I think your style stands out the most because from what I've seen of the books, and now I don't
Mhm.
keep up to date with them too much, but there's a
Right.
lot of people in there that seem to sort of copy your buddy Alex Milne.
Alex Milne, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
it seems like everyone's trying to do his thing.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't keep up with it enough, but I like seeing a
No, I,
unique
I,
twist.
I agree. I agree. I like his style. Well, Alex has been working in comics or with Transformers, forever.
Hmm.
Like ever since we were working together back in Dreamwave, way back in 2003, 2004. That's when we started working together. So like he's what for the past 15 years. Like I'd say him and Don Figueroa, those two, kind of set the kind of style that people like to see, and the way they did both of them, they were more on the cartoony, more expressive end to that point. Now I left. I would say around 2006. Like I did little things here and there, but my style was gone by that time. So people were just kind of accustomed to that look, where maybe even subliminally
Hmm.
they were trying to follow what was already there
Yeah.
in those particular comics, and for the most part, that was the way Alex and Don, they were kind of the temp everybody else. And then as they went on, and as deadlines get tighter, the less lines were being used, and that's when things started to get a little bit more cartoonier and more cartoonier at that particular time, which isn't a bad thing because a lot of the you do get a lot more
Yeah.
expression sometimes when it comes to this cartoonier art. And the thing is, people just start getting used to it.
Hmm.
They just kind of started getting used to that style. So that's why I could understand when I got back into following me as long. Um, when they see my stuff, it's either a love or hate it type thing because it's so different, or you're gonna hate it because it's so different. A lot of people didn't like it because it was so different to what they were accustomed to, what they believed Transformers comics was. But some people liked it because it was so different to what they were accustomed to. So it's like a 50-50 type
Hmm.
deal that I noticed when I returned to comics. When was it? 2013 when I did Dark Cybertron. So some people really liked it, some people didn't at the same time, right? So that's a give and take you get
Yeah.
sometimes. But then if you don't do something different, then you're just part of the noise,
Hmm.
you know, or you have nothing unique about you at the same time. So it's well, at the end of the day, it all depends on what you want to do. Our career, like for me personally, like there's probably little adjustments I would do. I'll probably keep some of the detail, but little adjustments I would do. They're saying when it comes to more expressive faces and stuff like that, which I would probably incorporate. But it all depends. Like it's what the fan base got used to at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
So,
Without saying one style is better than the other,
oh no,
because
no, no.
it's a preference.
Yeah.
It truly is a personal preference for everybody. So
It's a
yeah.
nice contrast too, because there's a lot of the Transformers people that don't like the movie designs. So I guess
Mhm.
a more cartoony,
Yeah.
mass-produced thing that works well for some people.
Right, and that's a great point. Maybe it feels more reminiscent to the G1, the
Hmm.
cartoon, so it brings back those memories too. So yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Actually,
Yeah.
so I agree. There you go.
So from all of your time working in comics, what is your most standout favorite memory?
Favorite memory working in comics. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. Let me think. Well, because you have different achievements
Hmm.
when it comes like there's nothing that really is like bam stand out to you. Like there are moments
Yeah.
like for example like you get your that first Marvel job, C job. Of course you'll always remember those. I think one really good memory was back in the Dreamwave days when me, Pat Lee, and Chris Saraceni, we drove down to New York to do a signing in Midtown Comics. And, you don't really understand how popular you were at that particular time. And I didn't really get how popular we were at that time. Like, especially was the number one selling book in July of 2012. Um, so we get to this comic book store, and literally the line went around the block,
Oh wow.
went through the store, around the block, all the way around, and you realize, did you start putting names to the numbers?
Yeah.
You put it's more than just the sales of the book. Then you start seeing individual people and how you touch their lives, and you realize that there's a little bit more to this than just you drawing pictures.
Rob Liefeld, and he said the exact same thing.
Right, exactly. Like you don't, you got to send me a link to that YouTube video. I want to watch it, but you don't realize that, right? And I was related to this is when I started doing things live on my YouTube channel, when we started building this community that we now have with the youth and meeting you, PJ. Like, I get that email from you last year, but through the live, I started really getting to know you a lot better, and that's when you realize that those numbers of subscribers, that they're people, right? They're not a number, right? They're not a number. There's not this number, this analytic thing that goes up. They're actual people with dreams and hopes and problems and successes and lives. They want to take time out of their day to follow you, right? And then you realize, holy crap, and you're like, why? At the same time, you forget that. And you forget that, like, for example, even if you were to have 100 subscribers, just say, or even 50 subscribers, you imagine if they were all in this room right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, oh man, this room would be pretty full. And you think of the number, and then you imagine, I'm listening to YouTubers who hit that million mark, like my buddy Jazz hit that million mark, but you don't really understand how big that number is until a million people. That's like an entire city of people. Like, you go to the stadium in here, it's called, or even if you go to Sydney Opera House, or you go to, what's it called, the Sky Dome, we used to call it. It's called the Rogers Center now. That's only 50,000 people. Yeah. It's like those at a million. That's like, you go 10 times that, more than 10 times that. That's 20 times that, 20 times that, and those people are actually following you, right? That's insane, right? So me at 30,000, that's a stadium full of people. I'm like, holy crap, that's a stadium full of people. But people, who aren't the same, people who are different, people who are individual, people who are like you in terms of they have a life that they need to live. Life, they're like out for you. So that was my first taste of that when I went to New York with Pat Lee and Chris Aracini, seeing these different people, putting names to the numbers. Type thing, right? And then that's one cool thing about this whole business, so that truly is a standout moment. Now, related to that, that's when I realized, not then, but I didn't realize how important it was to remember those people when doing my work. When I was at San Diego Comic-Con. Now, this was when Comic-Con wasn't Comic-Con yet. Okay, this was before it turned into what it is today. I went down there and I told our manager, Roger Lee, Pat's brother, what I want to do is at the end of the con, like 2 hours before it's over, I'm going to do sketches for as many people as I can at the end of the con before I leave, because I was only there on the Thursday and Friday. I couldn't be there for the weekend because my sister had this big birthday party I had to go to. On a Friday, I want to do sketches for everybody. It's like, all right. So I'm there. I didn't realize how long it took me to do a sketch. Right? I just thought, okay, I'll just sketch, right? I'll sketch. I didn't realize it takes me like 20, 30 minutes to do a sketch, right? So I'm there, and I have this gigantic line, right? I got this gigantic line. So I'm drawing sketches. I think I only got to like the fifth one. I still had the giant line. I realized I only got 30 minutes left, or like 20 minutes left or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I go, Roger, go cut the line. Go cut the line. Right? It's like, all right. So already these people in the line, they waited an hour and a half for me, right? So, and then Roger cut the line. Of course, they're upset, right? They leave, right? So the people in line, they're hoping they at least get a sketch. It's the end of the con already. I still have a lot of people waiting. I'm like, okay, guys, see you later, right? And then I'm like, and I think I cringe when I think of the story. Because for me, that was a guy who didn't care. And 3 hours waiting for you, and they didn't get what I should have took all these people. Hey, let's go out to the coffee shop over there. Let me finish your sketches because you waited this long for these sketches. But back then, being young and dumb, I'm like, okay, guys, bye-bye. I took off, and I felt really, really bad. That's when that's a guy who doesn't realize that these people have lives and that they have, things that they had to worry about themselves, right? And that they're taking their time, hours of this con when they could have been walking around, they could have been going to panels, doing other things. They were waiting for me, and I didn't deliver at the end. So that's people, realizing how important these people are and how important people who are watching this right now are. That's one of the biggest difference between me back then as an artist and me today as an artist, realizing that these are people, and they're taking their time for you. So
that experience probably helped you in the long run to actually appreciate the people,
yes,
right?
Absolutely. And if you're watching, if you're one of those people I snubbed back then, send me a message. I'm going to ask you some trivia questions to prove that you were there. But send me a message. Maybe I'll make up for those little sketches that I promised to do. There you go.
I was there. Totally.
Oh, you were there. Oh, yeah, PJ was there. There you go. He was like 1 year old in line. Apparently. There you go.
Okay, so what do you think is missing from comics nowadays?
From comics nowadays, in terms of artists itself, or comics in general? Because I'll admit too, I don't follow comics as much anymore. The first time I was in a comic book store a long time was with my buddy Jonathan a month ago, and second time since, because it was Free Comic Book Day. But I'm finding today, and it's not just comics in general. I think it's a whole. Even a whole IP thing in general, is that, well, I won't even say that there. I was going to say that there's not as many original ideas, but it's not that in itself too. It's people's acceptance of original ideas. I think that's what's missing today. That's the reason why a lot of movies, the only movies you see nowadays are that do well are sequels and comic book properties, right? That's the only thing that does well, because people aren't willing to try something new. Same goes with comics today. For an indie comic to get off the ground nowadays, or at least to have a huge following, it's really hard. Well, in just a comic book form anyway. Some indie comics work well is because people were able to market themselves, or those artists and writers were able to market themselves in a way that was appealing. But it's just the lack of original ideas. Like Marvel and DC. Even for them, their version of new characters was to take in old characters and replace them with with newer people, right? That's why you have this new Thor, new Captain America, new Iron Man, right? That's their way of creating new characters, is by taking an old and kind of revamping them in a way, or turning them into different people, instead of making a cool new character, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with Captain America being black or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the fact that why couldn't we take that character and turn him into his own cool character, which he was already. Falcon was already a cool character. Wasn't there something we could do to make Falcon even cooler? Or maybe people just didn't accept that. We didn't want him to be a cooler character. It's one of those things. And it's a hard thing too. How do you fix that? The market is the market. As Gary Vee says, you can't tell people what to like. You can't tell people you have to spend your money here. It's one of those things I wish the market itself would be more accepting to new ideas. But that's not something that's not necessarily the artist's fault. Maybe it is a writer thing. Maybe it's like I said, if the writing was good, right, better, or something that was more appealing, maybe people would be more accepting to those things. For example, when the news came out months ago that Marvel sales were down, right? Marvel sales were down. And people were pointing at, maybe it was because they changed the ethnicity of these characters. Was it that, or was it because the story wasn't appealing enough for those people, to draw them in? Maybe it was the story, not the fact that they changed the color of the character's skin, but more because they didn't tell us enough to draw people in. That type of thing. So it's one of those balances things. I wish there was an answer to all of this. There really isn't. But it's hard, because that stops studios from trying to pour money into original ideas or something that's different. Like, for example, Valerian, right? Valerian just came out here. I don't know, is Valerian out in Australia? Is Valerian?
I don't think so.
Not yet? Well, completely bombed bombed. That movie cost $200 million to make. It made 17 million in its opening weekend here in North America, right? That is, people are getting fired type money, right? People are getting fired, and they'll never put that much money into a movie again because people didn't take to it. People just didn't take to this particular movie. So it's finding that medium, and it's not necessarily a problem. It's more, I wish people were more original ideas. I think that's what I'm pretty much getting down to at this point. But at the same time, market's the market. Like Gary Vee says, market's the market, and we just do what we have to do at the same time. It might turn into a one for you, one for me again type thing, right? Like a Christopher Nolan type thing where, he does his Batman, people love it. Now he could do this other project and people are going to turn to that. They're like, oh, that's the guy who directed Batman. I don't know, let's see what he did over here.
Yeah,
right? That's where he's
too. So clearly that works.
Exactly, right. The Dunkirk did fantastic. Killed Valerian. Dunkirk made 50 million over the weekend, right? So it's like, that's the one for you, one for me thing. So maybe that's what we all have to do. Like me and PJ were talking earlier, like our YouTube channels. It's like doing one thing we hope everyone will like and one thing that I would like, at the same time. And if people like the stuff that I like, hey, fantastic, right? It's one of those type of deals. So
that straight up answers the next question. This one was actually sent in.
Okay.
So, what do you think more YouTubers should do? That
one for you, one for me. Definitely one for you, one for me. But at the same time, that's one thing. Like even the whole thing, being a YouTuber, understand that again, followers are people. They're people like you. They have dreams and hopes like you, and you're there to provide that sort of entertainment, whether that be for a minute, 10 minutes, 1 hour, whatever that is. And they're taking their time out. For you, listen to the people market and realize what they want, and that is a good way to approach it. One for you, one for me. Do something that you love to do no matter what people think, and then do something that you think they would like to do, and just have that balance and be consistent and be patient with everything. You're not going to get 1 million followers overnight. It never happens. It never happens to anybody. There's nobody who got to where they are without hard work. We're the biggest YouTubers right now, as probably
Jake Paul,
Jake Logan Paul, and as they say, the type of personality he is turns off a lot of people. One thing I do admire about him, he is a very smart guy.
Yeah,
he is a very smart guy. If you've listened to his business videos where he's not being that guy on camera, he's actually really, really, really smart. The way he's doing everything he's doing right now, to the point where Logan Paul, Jake Paul, they're way more Power 18 than any of those movie stars out there today. They're way more famous than any of those guys, and there's a reason for that. And it's all calculated. It's just not him being this weird dude on the internet. No, it's very calculated. It's very calculated. So I would suggest anybody a good interview to hear is his interview with Lewis Howes. If you don't know who Lewis Howes is, he does this. His YouTube channel is called The School of Greatness. Does a lot of interviews with personalities or very successful people, and one of them is Logan Paul's. Listen to that, and you realize that everything he's doing, as weird as it seems, there's a reason behind it. To me, it's very, very calculated what he's doing. To that point, I admire him in that sense. Not exactly what he's doing, but I admire his plan behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I admire that plan that he has because it makes a lot of sense. So I would suggest you go listen to that, and you'll be different light than this guy who makes a fool out of himself on the internet, right? Makes a lot of sense, right? Look at me standing up for Jake Paul on the internet. So I'm not standing up for what he's doing online. I'm standing up for his business acumen behind it. So yeah.
Okay, so this one, I think you would get this a lot, but you hear people talking about struggling with creative block or art block or whatever they want to call it.
Yes.
What do you do when you either don't feel like drawing or if you just feel like it's just not working out?
I stopped drawing. I'm a human like everyone else. Like a lot of you, and like PJ said, it's extremely common. I wish there was like a push this button and we'll turn back on, but there really isn't. Usually what that is really the only way to get through that is fear sometimes. It's more like that's why if you ever set a goal for yourself, have a consequence at the end or some sort of deadline at the end, because sometimes that enforces you. It's that forcing of it. But you wish you could get those ideas out. You wish you could get it. And again, I wish there was like a Control Alt Delete or something that you could press to get creative again, but there really isn't. It's more like trying to bang through it. Like Doug Chang, again, one of my heroes. He's art director at Lucasfilm, and one of the reasons that he's one of my biggest influences in developing my style to what it is today. But he would say, like, sometimes when he hits that rut, that he just keeps drawing, even though the drawing sucks. He'll just keep drawing until something good happens. So whether that be 4 or 5 crappy drawings, he'll draw a couple up, throw out, and that works for him. I would not suggest going to play a video game or something like that. In a sense, if you're gonna take a break, I suggest doing something physical, just to get those endorphins going on, as opposed to going to play video games or scroll through Instagram or even looking at somebody else's artwork. I wouldn't do those type of things, because in a way, looking at artwork might be a little bit more depressing, more than actually helping you. I would suggest whether that be go for a walk, do something timed, and then get back to it. But I would suggest doing something like that more than picking up this guy and trying to work through that. But again, everyone's different. And again, there's no set way. Do this and you'll get out of that creative block, because everybody goes through it. You just do what you can just to get through it.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of people that are getting into art. They need to know that there's not a lot of consistent things, because it's different for every single person, right? So there's not going to be one specific thing for pretty much anything in art, I think. Like people, right? You're right. Absolutely, it's different for everyone.
Right. Absolutely. Right. So, I think the biggest thing when you're doing art, again, have a goal for whatever you do, even if it's just this simple stuff. Okay, I'm gonna finish. Have yourself a goal. I'm gonna finish in an hour. Finish an hour that could help motivate you. Even something simple like this is going to sound odd, but this is something I've heard and it works. You like cookies? You like cookies, PJ?
Yeah, I'm a fan. Probably too much of a fan.
You're a fan of cookies? Yeah. Okay, but just what's your favorite food there, PJ? What's your favorite snack?
No, I have to admit.
Like Tim Tams?
Yes.
Chocolate cookie. Yeah, oh, you like Tim Tams. Okay, how about Tim Tams? So you have a little plate of Tim Tams here. Tim Tams on the side here. And just say you're drawing a character. And you're like, okay, I'm not going to have a Tim Tam until I finished drawing his head. Okay, all right. So, I want that Tim Tam. All right, we're going to draw that. All right, we're going to take a bite of Tim Tam. Okay, I'm not going to have another Tim Tam until I finish off his body. Okay, I'm going to draw this. You're looking at the Tim Tam. You'll be, it sounds silly, but sometimes those little type of things work. Even just like you're there, PJ. Do you like the coffee? Not really?
Not coffee. I'm not too much of a.
You're not coffee? Okay, well, I'm a coffee guy. A lot of guys are a coffee guy. Sometimes even just a simple thing like a sip of coffee. Okay, I'm not even going to take a sip of the coffee until I finish off this arm. So I'm going to finish off the arm here. Like little simple, and all those are little simple milestones that have a reward at the end. But just give that a try. Give that a try if just nothing's working. Try. You'd be surprised how little things like that could actually help motivate you just to get through certain projects. But breaking things down, they help. I think sometimes too, creative block comes when you have a project that's overwhelming.
Yeah.
In that sense. So the more you break things down and then give yourself a tiny little bit of a reward for breaking things down.
Yeah.
For each of those little milestones that you create and breaking down those bigger projects, those can be a little bit of a motivational factor. So like I would do that in comics too a lot. I would say like, okay, I would give myself an hour to finish off this panel, right? Or I would say like, or you would start with a bigger panel, right? I'll work 2 hours, and you would actually set a timer to it, the timer that you could actually see, and you could actually see the time counting down. So it's like our 10-minute, 1 minute, 10-second challenge where you're trying to rush the clock to beat it, right? So at the very least, even psychologically, that you have that little timer, little bit of, even though it's self-imposed, but you're like, okay, I gotta make it. I can do it for myself. I'm gonna make that particular time. I'm gonna get this done, and that sort of time. Those little tips could be a little bit of a motivational factor just to help get you through it. Again, it's not 100% perfect, but it's something. So,
all right. So to finish this off, I wanted to steal something from Gary V.
Okay.
It's your turn to ask a question. So what would you ask all the people that are watching right now?
Okay. And here's a question, and again, like, it'll be fun for me to read the answer to this question, but really, this is a question for you. My question for you is, what? Okay, I assume that if you're watching this, that you are an artist. Okay, my question to you is, what is your dream? Okay, it's a two-part question. What is your dream in art? What is whatever goal that is? Okay, what is your dream achievement, or what is your main goal in art? And your second question, okay, the two-part, you got to answer both. Don't just answer one. You have to answer both. And my second question, even though PJ only said one question, I answered both questions. Second, what are you going to do to achieve that goal? That's my question to you. What is that goal, that ultimate goal you want? And number two, what are you going to do to make sure that you achieve that goal? Even that means you're going to break it down, how you're actually going to go to achieve that goal. What are the steps you're going to take to achieve that goal? Not just what are you going to do. Get specific. I don't want to see just, I'm going to work hard. No, get specific. What are you going to do to actually achieve that goal? That I want to see that, and really, that's a good question just for yourself, just to help you kind of figure out what you want to do.
All right. So thank you again, James, for taking the time. I don't want to waste too much of your time, so thank you again.
No, this definitely wasn't a waste of time. This was a lot of fun. I hope this helped everyone out who's watching. And thank you, PJ, for having me.
Thank you, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad. Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you for watching. James, just before we end off, where can people find you and check out all of your work?
First of all, you could find me on this channel, so make sure you subscribe to PJ's channel. Make sure you owe me a subscription on this particular channel here. So subscribe to PJ's channel. And if you get the chance, check out my channel at youtube.com/theboxofficeartist. You can also find me on all social media, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, at boxofficeartist, facebook.com/theboxoffice, don't forget the boxofficeartist, twitch.tv/boxofficeartist. And yeah, I would love to answer all of your questions. So thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, James. I'll have all of that stuff linked up down below and up in the card as well. So thanks so much, James.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. So if you're still here, thank you so much for watching this video. This was a really long one, I know. Firstly, well, I guess finally, I want to thank James for agreeing to do this. It was, mainly for me, like for selfish reasons. I wanted to pick his brain a little bit, ask some questions about some things that I plan to do, and yeah, it was really fun. We talked for ages, and it was very exciting. Now, I do want to do more interviews like this, specifically Jazza. I would really love to interview Jazza, but again, it's hard to sort of get in contact with him, and he's busy as well, so I don't want to try and annoy him. If you guys are interested, I'm possibly going to be meeting Jazza at VidCon this year. Now, what I would like you guys to do, and I'm going to release another video, but if you're here watching this, why not? If you're interested in a quick interview with him, now I don't know if I'll be able to stop him and ask him a few questions, whatever. Just send me in the questions that you'd like to hear me ask him. If I can get the time, I will. But what would be really cool is if you guys could all tweet at Jazza saying you'd be interested in seeing an interview on this channel with him. But anyway, don't spam him though. I don't want to annoy him. I still want to get him to be interested in it. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Also subscribe to the Box Office Artist. I'm going to put one of his videos right over here. You can also check out my daily vlog channel and my latest video right over here. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you tomorrow.